and this is In Session. And welcome back to In Session. Today we are interviewing Mr. Axel Vásquez.
And thank you for being here with us, Axel. So we're very thankful to have you here in the DLASC, of course. But we're here to talk to you a little bit about your time as a College Navigator and how you were able to help students. So could you tell us a little more about College Navigators and what that is?
Thank you, Derek, and thank you for asking that question. Prior to this time, and when I say this time, the 2020s, here at BRCC, no longer do we have academic advisors, but we have what we are now calling as College Navigators. And the reason for the title of a College Navigator is because it is to take a holistic advising model to in turn helping our students. Holistic approach meaning not just academically advising somebody for the courses that they are to take now and then in turn leading up to graduation from with their associate's degree, but again, a holistic approach. Maybe the student has issues or some concerns regarding financial aid. Maybe the student does need the services of counseling and accessibility services. Maybe there's an issue with the initial admissions application, or even though they have been accepted or admitted to BRCC, there's an issue with the application that is holding them or preventing them to then in turn register for their courses. So maybe Veteran Affairs needs to be involved because they are the students' offspring or children of veterans, or maybe the students themselves that we are attempting to help out are veterans themselves. So a holistic approach, College Navigator, because we then in turn would help students navigate through the myriad of obstacle issues, or not necessarily issues, just items that would have to be tended to or taken care of so that it can be successful while at school.
Do you feel that since the title has changed from academic advisors to more college navigators, do you feel like you have been able to help more students in a more productive way? Because me personally, I've had multiple academic advisors throughout my college career. So how would you describe the change from an academic advisor all the way to what they are now with college navigators?
Thank you, Miles. 2 years ago, I attended a national conference for academic advisors in Orlando, Florida. And that was the thrust. So although I was an academic advisor, the thrust among colleges and universities was to have somebody that would be taking care of a student or students from a holistic approach. And as you stated, Miles, it's not simply the classes that you have to take, but then in turn walking the student through pretty much every facet of their college life. In short, then in turn I felt that I was able to impact or to help students more so than if I was simply an academic advisor. There also has to be a balance as well because, for instance, I haven't been trained and or certified. I am not a financial aid counselor, okay? But I was trained into what we offered and into what a student needed to do, i.e. complete their FAFSA application, and then in turn regarding our timelines and or datelines or timestamp dates that they had to have this information submitted by. So in that regards, I was able to help a student with the financial aid process. But in regards to whether they qualified for financial aid, in regards to the particular income information that they needed to provide, in regards to what they had been approved for or not approved for, that's strictly financial aid. And the timelines in which they needed to provide X, Y, or Z information, that's strictly financial aid. So in that regards, I was able to point out students into, I see in the system that you're not listed as financial aid or that you have completed your application. Also, for instance, if a student needed services or for counseling and accessibility, or from our counseling and accessibility department, there are two programs that a student can fall into. They can have an IEP, which is an individual educational plan, or they could have an IAP, which is an individual accessibility plan. The IAP, the individual accessibility plan, per the nature of the name, it deals with access or accessibility. That is federal, and that is a program that is going to follow you from kindergarten all the way until you complete your college studies. But although it's going to be following you, you could graduate from a Louisiana high school and then elect to go to an out-of-state college. It doesn't automatically transition onto Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas. You have to actually do some legwork. You actually have to go to the Counseling and Accessibility Services office and present this plan. Given that it is federal, then in turn it will be ratified and or approved. But it just doesn't automatically happen. Right. So it's very personal, but as a college navigator, at least I knew the steps. Now I wouldn't get into it with the student as to what the plan was approved for and what they would get, right. But I was able to point them out to the right source or to the right department.
And I love that approach because it's kind of in line with what we do here, even though like we're focused on one thing, which is, providing space for students, tutoring and stuff like that. We kind of have to do we're kind of a little bit of jack of all trades. We have to be able to provide students with support in a bunch of different ways that we aren't always expecting, right? Maybe we have to send them over to IT because we don't, they need a computer. We don't know how to fix something on their laptop, or maybe we have to send them to Bursar's office because we can't, fix their student ID and make it print or whatever. But like we have to be able to have the knowledge to send them to the right place, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So when it comes to prepping for the semester and helping students understand what they need going into the semester, what resources would you recommend for students, whether it be new students or students coming back, for their after a semester two?
Thank you, Derek, and I think that's a two-sided issue. Number one, a new student to ensure that we have talked to them, that we have oriented them on all. Now, we also know that students are itching to get started, that the attention span may be very, very limited, but we have to at least put it before them as to what they're having to do. A new student orientation to make sure that they have at least the information, one, presented to them, issued to them so that they have it, orientation. Number two, we talked about financial aid. Number three, the scheduling of classes, and to ensure that they take in the classes not so that they can be awarded financial aid, but that the classes that are going to be pertaining to their field of study. We also know, statistically speaking, that students are going to be changing their major. Right. That may not only change it one time, but maybe multiple times. And that is okay. As a student is figuring out his or her way, we need to then in turn be encouraging. Now, of course, we want to make sure that they're not spending all of their parents' monies in this regards, or that they're spending all of their financial aid applicable hours to get an associate's degree. But we want to make sure that we give the student ample opportunity to then in turn make that choice. And then learning from previous mistakes and or past behaviors, the good and the bad. What are some of those good things that I did as a student that I want to carry on onto the next semester? And what are those things that I need to stay away from because it didn't help me? One thing that I have seen on both areas, student services, i.e. College Navigators, and here at the DLASC, the want or the liking of online classes. Our students wanting to take the online classes. And I think there's a fallacy. There's a fallacy that if I take an online class, I can do it whenever I want, however I want, and it's going to be easy.
It doesn't always work like that.
And it doesn't always work that way.
Right.
I have found that there are some students that, I'm sorry, but unless the class is only offered online for students' best purposes, is for them to attend a lecture class, because they have to be in a classroom environment, they have to be around people, they have to have somebody before them presenting the information and be engaged. If they choose to take an online class, or if as an advisor, or we encourage them to go into online classes, and that's not their mode of operation, they will fail. They will fail from every angle because they're not encouraged, they're not into it. And there are also some timelines that are applicable. Within the first week and a half of the semester or the term that has gotten started, there will be an attendance check. And the attendance check is primarily done for financial aid purposes. Why financial aid purposes? Because these are federal dollars being appropriated onto a student for the purpose of taking classes and towards a degree. So you don't get the disbursement immediately. You're going to get it after the attendance check has taken place. So once a week and a half has passed, add drop period has taken place, and then you know the classes that you're needing to keep, right, and that for your degree purposes, then the attendance check takes place. So again, I say that because a student who's enrolled in an online class may feel that I can just log on it whenever I want.
And they'll miss that attendance check.
Then the attendance check takes place. They're dropped from the course. They are purged. And why? Because they were submitted as not having been in attendance. Right. But wait, I'm taking an online class.
I don't need attendance.
I don't need attendance. How is an online class? How does attendance on an online class gets checked? Well, very easily. We have a platform called Canvas. And on Canvas, you are supposed to log on, right, and then in turn log off. There are also assignments that are due and within certain timelines. So, and it could be something very, very bogus that by Friday, Derek, I want a paragraph, 4 sentences on why have you chosen to take this class. And where students get tripped is that it could be a math class.
Right.
So why is my math teacher wanting to know why I'm taking this class?
Right.
And think that they don't have to do that.
But it's to verify your attendance.
It's to verify your attendance. That's exactly right. Yeah. So in both places, so we have students coming over here because they need help with the online class, not realizing that it is a class. Not also realizing that if it's not a live session or a synchronous class, they pretty much are doing the work themselves, i.e. having to listen to and or watch a pre-recorded lecture, mm-hmm, and then in turn having to teach themselves the material. Right. And if you are not proactive, it could be very, very hurtful and or damaging.
You touched on something that resonated a little bit with me first. Can I tell a story?
Please.
So my first semester at BRCC, right? I'm coming back to school after a few years out. And I signed up for classes and everything, and all of them were online. I remember that. And I kind of had the same thought where I was like, okay, it's online class. I'll just start whenever I want to, whatever, right? And then I realized, I was like, wait, when does the semester start? I didn't even check when classes start. Luckily, I had somehow just fallen into, accidentally scheduled 12-week courses, thankfully. So, a week or two into the semester, I'm, logging in. I'm like, oh, my God, where are my classes? I don't know, what's going on? My classes hadn't started, thankfully, but I was that student. Right. So that really, I feel like it got clocked a little bit. That one, I was that person.
But you have to learn.
But I learned. I definitely learned from that. I knew when the semester started every semester after that.
But you just touched on something, Derek, in both places, whether it's in academic advising or with the College Navigators or here with Canvas. Students will come either place. Oh my God, I'm supposed to have Physical Science 1023 and it's online and it's not coming up on Canvas.
Right.
Well, why? because it's not a 16-week class, but it's a 12-week class. So in this particular semester term, spring 25, 16-week classes started on January the 13th.
Right.
12-week classes are starting on February the 10th.
Right. That exact same situation happened to me. My business calc class, which I signed up for this semester, which I thought was a 16-week course, had been moved to a 12-week course. So I'm stuck on campus at the regular time, figuring out where's my class. I'm here at 1:30, it's not starting. And then all of a sudden I go look on Canvas, 12-week course. So.
And so, you know, stuff like that, it is not always, you know, the students, you know, fall, classes get changed, stuff like that.
Right.
But very often students, both from my perspective and students that we've worked with in the center, like just don't know. Like they just kind of sign up for stuff like that. You know, they just see, okay, I need this class. That class is open, add it to schedule.
Right.
You know?
A lot of the times, usually with the more older students that we have here, is that they'll come in saying they have all these classes. They're all these online classes. And a lot of the time they don't, because they're just coming back to school, maybe after not having been in school for 30-something years. And they're just like, I don't know how to operate these online classes. And so, luckily we're here to help alleviate some of that. We try our best to make sure they can take these classes online. But definitely, unless it's online, like unless the only way you can take it is online, a lot of students function and are more engaged with that in person. You know, they have to sit down and see the professor.
Right. And I think the biggest problem is really just like students they're not always in the know of what's available to them or what's going on, you know, as far as their studies are concerned. You know, not only with their coursework, that's definitely the problem we see with the students having a problem with, you know, figuring out, you know, what's going on with the classes, but that's also something we see with students understanding what resources are available to them, right? Or like where to turn to when they do have problems. How do you preemptively like connect with students, you know,
before like their academic, before like they just like start failing all their classes?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank
like,
you.
hopefully,
That's the words I'm looking
hopefully
for.
you catch them before that drop date comes.
Yes,
So
sir.
although you guys at College Navigators, when you worked there, you were like, probably your most common thing is to kind of help people get set up with classes. But obviously you don't stop there. So how is it when you navigate them through the semester and making sure, especially these first time students, that like they know that you know, you gotta make sure you stay on this class and make sure they're aware of things like drop dates and stuff like that. Like how is it reaching out to them once you've had that connection, and also maybe a new student who hasn't come to you guys yet middle of the semester, how do you guys reach out to them as well?
Yes, sir. From the advising standpoint, I had first-hand knowledge. Number one, the first-hand interaction with the student. Once or while advising them for courses, then I was able to see scores, ACT, SAT, whether they took a placement test for math and for English. So from that regards, I knew right away whether they were deficient in some areas or if they met the criteria to be in a math, in an English class, in a science class. So from that standpoint, if I knew that they had some deficiencies, I would then encourage them to come here to the center,
Right.
to the DLASC. Furthermore, as an academic advisor / college navigator, we were assigned a group of students. So that group that I had under my purview, I would then in turn send communication regarding any events that were on campus, not just the fun events, but if we had when earlier registration or priority registration would take place. Once again, information about the center, the DLASC, any dates that were important, as you stated, Miles, drop date or the last day to add a 16-week class,
Right.
the last day to drop a class and not affect your status, the last day to drop with a W.
Right.
Okay.
But a lot of students that have that issue where if they drop a class, it would affect their financial aid.
Correct.
Stuff like that.
Yes, sir. And that here, it's a very, very touchy subject because financial aid means money.
Right.
So as a student, I'm enrolled in 12 credit hours, and I have to be in 12 credit hours in order to get 100% of my Pell Grant.
Mm-hmm.
And that 100% of my Pell Grant,
Right.
after all my classes have been paid off, the offset or the amount that is in overage comes to me as a refund.
Right.
Okay? So now I have money in my pocket. So from an advising standpoint, or as a college navigator, I will always tell students, it's an offset. It's called a refund, but it's not necessarily a refund. Yes, you've paid for you've used the money to pay for your tuition and fees, but the amount that was in overage now comes to you, so to assist you with your college studies, i.e., anything that pertains to your education is not free money.
Such as like books.
Exactly. Right. You can have your books, transportation, food, you name it, clothes to come to school. But it's not, woohoo, I just got a $3,000 check.
Let's go on vacation.
And let's go on vacation. Let me buy some new shoes. Let me buy some clothes. Valentine's Day is coming up. Let me buy my girlfriend a diamond studded earrings, whatever. This is where our students then in turn get in trouble. Right. Because if after they have blown that money, then in turn drop a course, or they don't meet the satisfactory academic progress for financial aid purposes, now their financial aid is suspended.
Right.
So now I don't have any money. So now I have to submit an appeal in the hopes that it goes through so that I can get approved. So it's a matter of also managing those finances that although I'm getting this money, that money is to be used for my educational purposes. Yes, I have a car and I may need gas to get from Gonzales to the BRCC main campus. And yeah, you can use that money for gas purposes. But that's not money to then in turn blow away and then you are behind the eight ball. Same thing with your parents' money. Same things with scholarships. Same things with loans. So it's a fine line, again, because you mentioned it earlier. Our population, we have a greater number of non-traditional students than traditional students. Sure. Our average student age at BRCC is 27 years of age. Now, that's not necessarily bad. Again, it could be that you took a gap year or a few gap years. It could be that you decided to go on the work route initially, then decided to come back to school. Maybe you started school, it wasn't for you then, left, and then in turn you came back. So all of that is fine and dandy. Maybe you got married to your high school sweetheart right after high school. Had a child, went to work, and now that things are established, now you're able to come back to finish your education. So it's not necessarily bad that somebody's coming at 27 years of age, but you guys alluded to this earlier. But I've been out of the game now. I'm not a traditional student, so oh my gosh, this class is only offered online. Ooh, I'm not into this. I mean, I'm a traditional in classroom, have to have that. I'm a social butterfly, have to have people around me. This is not working for me. Or it could be that you are in an in-person class, but is even college algebra. You had the ACT scores to be placed in the college algebra, but it's been a while. Right. Because you haven't been working in math. You've been working wherever, full-time working. Now you are having to deal with polynomials and solving functions and equations. And oh my God, even though I'm in person and this is my mode, I really don't know what the professor is talking about.
And even for students, not even for students who have maybe have been to school in 30 years, students that have been to school in maybe 2 years, we live in such a world where if you missed out on 2 years, we're no longer using the math program you used 2 years ago.
Yes.
We're not using, even now, we don't have, you can barely get textbooks. Now all textbooks online.
Not even just technology. I mean, there may be changes in the way we teach math in 2 years.
That is exactly right.
From how we learn the same concepts. So
that is exactly right. Familiar with my son does have a degree in mathematics, but part of the reason why he fell in love is because, again, earlier on with secondary education or primary secondary education, we had here in Louisiana something called Common Core.
Yeah.
And it was a totally different way.
I grew up.
You grew up. So here we are, my son and I, every night dealing with Common Core. And now, how do we solve those problems? Not just simply 2 + 2, But hey, let's think about this. Because 1 plus 3 could be 4. Or 1.5 and 2.5. And let's take birds or bees and use them as an example. Or blue and red. So now we have this new method of instruction. So he fell in love with mathematics. So I am with you guys that even the way in which we teach the subject, although math doesn't change, it's the way that we go about it now, it's different.
Right. And so like going back to, this online class conversation, like it just requires so much discipline, especially like you're saying when it comes to the money involved with taking these classes. And, there's a lot of money, it's behind everything. And so, a lot of students do think, okay, well, I got my refund. I can spend them on X, Y, and Z. But as you said, like once it comes to like, them failing classes or dropping classes, that money has to go back somewhere.
And even with online classes, they do charge more.
Yes.
For the online class.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And so like you need a lot of discipline to get through online classes. And I don't think a lot of students recognize how much discipline it takes. Like I said, like when I came back, I didn't even know when the semester started. I didn't even think to check, I would willy-nilly was just going to go through my classes, and I had to like learn very quickly. Nope, I need to like get very serious. And that was, like I said, me coming back after a few years, me trying to do full-time, crazy 18 hours while working. I don't know what I was thinking. But I was just like, not serious before like my classes started, and I had to like really quickly like switch that like serious discipline brain on. That's what I think a lot of students are missing when it comes to getting pushed into classes like that. They don't know what to expect. Are there any resources actually that you could think of specifically for online classes or for online students, people who aren't on campus that you think will help, maybe mitigate some of that before it causes serious problems?
Absolutely. And Derek, and thank you. We are a primary resource. Our Canvas page, as a matter of fact, we're working to revamp it to be more customer friendly or more accessible. Not a whole lot of, still having the information, but not a whole lot of titles, more buttons to press to then get to the information. It's amazing the resources that we have for math, for English, for science, for writing that are contained within our Canvas page. We have BrainFuse. We now have Thea. So, and even calling us and then having a virtual appointment to talk to a digital learning technician, to talk to then in turn one of our academic tutors. There is information there. We now have virtual appointments.
And even for those who can't make it to virtual appointments, we now even also have our own YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
Which we started uploading videos to. We will continue updating videos into the YouTube channel because, as we talked about, the way you teach certain subjects changes, and so as that changes, we will try to keep up with that. A lot of our tutors will upload on the YouTube channel. So maybe if you have a particular tutor you learn from, maybe you can find them there and you can watch their videos.
And Derek, thank you, Miles and Derek. But it goes back to commitment. It goes back to the seriousness thereof. They're very proud of you. You have an associate's degree, you have a bachelor's degree, and you're pursuing your master's degree. Okay, so it's never too late to start. Okay,
no,
and you were serious and have been serious. Miles, you're about to complete your associate's degree and will continue thereafter. So it's commitment and then in turn the seriousness thereof. So I appreciate you guys. In particularly, we've been knowing each other for a while. I know that when a student walks through our door here at the DLASC and they're clueless, I'm not saying this in an offensive way. They're just coming back. I don't know about Canvas. I don't know about Lola. Can you guys help me out?
Right.
I know that I can count on either one of you, Derek, Miles, Derek, either one of you, to then in turn actually sit down with that student and help them out. Walk them through. Miles, whether it is how do I get my code for my book that I just purchased at the bookstore, to Derek, how do I set up, okay, I'm having issues with my Chromebook. Maybe I can do Google Docs instead because I can't get to whatever on my professor's Canvas page because I have a Chromebook. But you've been great in saying, we'll do it via the Google Docs. And Google Docs save. And then you in turn will be able to submit that information. So I can depend on either one of you to then walk that student through myriads of steps. And that's what we need. And that's what we need to convey. When a student comes in and he or she is frazzled, it's okay. They're not frazzled because you upset him in any way or upset her. They're just frazzled because they're just not coming back to school. They're just frazzled because maybe they couldn't find anybody on campus that could help them out. They're just frazzled because they have no idea where to go. But I have seen it time and time again, once they leave the center, and in particular once they leave you, either one of you, they are at peace because you have been able to help them out. And it could be simply just pointing out something on the Canvas page that they just didn't know. Oh, I just need to go here, and this is great. I got it.
And of course, much appreciated. So one thing you did talk about is I will be transferring soon as well. You were at BRCC, you transferred to LSU, Derek. Being a college navigator, you don't stop you don't just stop once they are at BRCC. I'm sure you have students you've helped after as well.
Yes.
How is that? How is guiding them through that transition, as that's what I'm currently doing? How do you guide them through that transition of going from one school to maybe a 4-year university, which is expected to have a bigger workload?
Yes, sir. The understanding thereof, Miles, and that's a fantastic question because it's great to start off at a community college. Again, we're here to serve the community. Although the classes are not easier, okay, the environment is different. It's a friendly, fun,
Can
loving.
you repeat that? I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Because so often people think because it's community college it's easier. It's community college, right? Can you please repeat that?
Yes, Derek, I appreciate that. Although we are a community college and we're here to serve our community, the classes are college classes.
Right.
There are college courses. They are not easy, or they are not easier than a 4-year level. We're offering the same college algebra. We're offering the same calculus for non-science majors. We're offering the same Calculus 1, Calculus 2. We even offer differential equations here at BRCC.
And even students who, as we have students who cross over from BRCC to LSU, we have it the other way around.
That's exactly right. And thank you for mentioning that, Miles. Over the summer, I experienced a number of LSU students coming here for the sole purpose of taking physics class, Physics 1. And that was my question, Derek. Why are you coming here to take physics? I'm wondering, is it easy? And they're like, the reason why we're here is because at LSU, it would be a 200 auditorium person class.
And of course, once that big auditorium, you lose that. A lot of professors we talk to, they have a way of being able to kind of reach out to you personally.
Yes.
You can't have that over there.
No, and that's exactly what they said. At a 200 auditorium capacity, the personalization gets lost. So then in turn, they felt like the teachers or the teacher didn't care. While here, we have 24, 30, maximum 35 students in a class, and they felt as if the teacher cared for the student.
And I will say that probably would explain why people think that classes here are easier. Not that they're necessarily are easier, but everything's easier if you can reach out to your professor and get help, or their office hours. Because even though you may know the office hours at a 4-year university, you might not get them because 200 plus people know the office.
Yes, sir.
Right. Like, even if a student doesn't know how to reach out for help, or they don't feel comfortable doing it, I found that with the smaller class sizes here, professors are more likely to reach out to them first and say, hey, what's going on? I've noticed X, Y, and Z. Like, how can I help? Stuff like that. So it's way more personal, way more personability, which is incredible. That's something I definitely noted whenever I transferred back to LSU was, it's just going from fully online and having to email professors to talk to them, to than being actually back in the classroom and like seeing people face to face and being able to talk, you know, before and after class and stuff like, you know, just having that smaller class size and being in person, like it was just so much better experience than like doing the fully online thing. And I did well, you know, with online classes. I was able to structure everything for myself, but like being in a classroom is just something it's just so different. It's so different. And like, especially when you have that small class size where you can like connect with the professor and the other students, like it makes the whole experience like that much better in my opinion.
Thank you, Derek. And something that I continuously encourage students on is finish your associate's degree or finish the bulk of your classes here at the community college level. Why? Number one, financial. We are cheaper than a 4-year school. So save your monies because your tuition then in turn is going to double or more than double once you switch to a 4-year school. So as we talked about earlier, Miles, just preparing yourself, number one, on the cost. Number two, the class structure. Right. Whereas I am in person here or maybe some online classes, here at this level, professors seem to care. Where at the different level, or at the 4-year level,
the classes too big. You can't afford to, you can't. It's hard to develop a relationship with 200 plus students.
Correct.
As opposed to when you have 30.
That's exactly. Parking. We have a 4-story parking garage here on our campus. Parking is not an issue. Where at LSU, parking is an issue.
Yep.
So those are nuances that I like to talk to students about so that they are prepared.
Right.
Because it's not going to be all fun and games. And it's not going to be, woohoo, I'm going to LSU. This is going to be great. I mean, number one, we said tuition. Number two, we said parking. Number three, we said 200 auditorium where the personalization is lost. So you may very well feel like a one man on an island all to yourself.
Right.
And not because the 4-year campus is designed as such. It's just the nature.
Right.
It's just, I went to a 4-year school. It's just the nature. So then in turn, you have to get involved. You have to get involved with your classmates. Mm-hmm. You have to get involved with organizations on campus. You have to get an on-campus job, whatever. Go to your professor's office during his or her office hours. Maybe get an assistantship. So that way you can then in turn feel a part of that campus and then in turn succeed thereafter.
A recommendation that I got from you was to, if you're still at BRCC, take a cross-enrollment course. That way you can get kind of a feel of what another, like a 4-year university would be like without kind of just jumping straight into it. That was probably a really good suggestion. I didn't get into the one this semester, but I will be applying.
Very good.
This summer semester.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, Axel, so it's time for what we call the final bell. It's our last question just to wrap things up. So for you, I have this question of what is in your opinion, the most maybe overlooked resource that we have on campus that you think students should really, look into and that you think that will really help them out?
So we are now starting to see an influx of students as compared from last semester, which was my first semester here at the DLASC, to now. We have been promoting the center. We have been at Dean's Council meetings. We have been in classrooms to make sure that they know what is it that we offer here at the center. So had you asked me that question, Derek, last fall, I would say that this is the number one overlooked resource here on this campus. The type of, just over the weekend, I assisted Dr. Sahara in coming up with a comprehensive tutoring schedule, i.e. from hour per hour, from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, Monday through Friday, and the courses that we have tutoring assistance for. And let me tell you, we have 13 math courses that we now have staff that can tutor students in. 13. Okay, we have the same for sciences that we can assist students tutoring in. We can tutor all of the English classes, Derek, including major American writers, major British writers, okay? History classes. So we had been the most overlooked resource here on the campus. We're starting to pick up ground or speed, or to add ground, whatever the cliche may be that we would want to use. But it's amazing from day one, the number of students that were knocking on our doors, and then we had to freeze. So that kind of threw students off for a loop, right, because now they're behind. So we open up after the freeze, and to see the number of students coming through our doors, and now our tutors being active and not being idle because there's no one to tutor is fantastic.
Yeah, the ball definitely did not stop rolling.
Yes, sir. So I would want to encourage, I will continue to promote, I will continue to advertise, I will continue to do whatever to ensure that our students come in here and get tutorial help. And as we tell the classes, don't be afraid. If you know that it's been a while since you've had algebra, you have some questions, come on over. Don't wait until midterms. Don't wait until finals. I mean, come now. Do not be ashamed.
Right.
So we have picked up ground, Derek, and we have picked up speed. I would say the second, but it can also be misleading because of the number of students that do go to see the College Navigators. That would be number 2, because BRCC, we don't have an academic hold. What that means is that at other schools you would have an academic hold and you have to see your advisor before you can register for classes. So there may be other holds, but you don't have financial hold, financial aid, you owe past balances, but we don't have an academic hold. So an academic hold is not going to prevent, we don't have it, so you're not prevented from registering for classes. So you could technically register for classes without seeing a College Navigator. Right. So I would suggest that, and you may be very well versed on our curriculum, on our course catalog. You may very well know what classes you have to take fall, spring to complete your associate's degree. But I would encourage students to just get it checked out, just get a double check with the College Navigator to ensure that you are on path for the courses that you need to then in turn get your associate's degree. The other part that students forget at times, okay, I don't have the ACT for math, or I don't have the ACT scores for English. I'm trying to register for a class, but the system is just not letting me. Well, the system is not letting you because of the provision. You have to have the scores to be able to get in. Right. So don't force the issue. See a College Navigator so that they can tell you what the issues are. Okay, but I can't take, or I don't want to take the correct classes. No problem. Okay, we have different ways. Number 1, you can take our self-placement survey, which was developed by STEM as well as liberal arts for math and for English. So you take the survey one time and one time only. The survey may very well say that you can go into English without the correct, or you can go into college algebra without the correct. You take the survey, that doesn't work, you can start it, take the AccuPlacer to then in turn be placed into English and to then be placed into math.
Right.
Those may not work out because again, you may very well need to take a class with the correct English and or math. It's not the end of the story. It's just to help you. Right. Many students who have taken the correct classes have graduated not only with their associates, bachelors, and moving on and have professional careers.
Right.
So it's not, and that's the other part, encouraging a student that it's not that bad. Okay, that it's okay if you have to take the correct. And then depends on the curriculum too. Maybe you in our liberal arts program where you don't necessarily need college algebra, but you can take a different class like Math 1003 or Math 1103, and then your second math could be Introduction to Logic. That's what I'm talking about.
And speaking on math changing, logic I didn't know existed as a course until it was. So someone asked for tutoring for it. I didn't know that course was even a thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to take it for when I was here.
Yes, sir. So in regards to like the departments of the resources, probably financial aid, it might be listed as number one, of course, because we have a lot of students that are needing financial aid. But so that's going to be always the long lines and people waiting to see a financial aid counselor. But I would then state that, so right now, we shouldn't be overlooked. We can assist students with Canvas, with tutorials for different classes. The College Navigators. Earlier we talked about counseling and accessibilities. The issues that students are having to face now, and just life in general, were not issues that students had to face in my era or my parents' era.
Right.
So it's okay to see a counselor. It's okay to just have somebody to talk on to. Sometimes students are also ashamed because I had an accessibility plan while in high school, an IAP. It provided me with additional time to take my test, or with this, that, and the other. But I don't want people to see that while in college. I want to be a different person. Some people fail to then in turn turn that in, and they in turn struggle in the classroom. There's no shame. There's no shame. So I would say counseling and accessibility services is another resource that should be looked into, and that students should not be ashamed of.
For anyone who might be feeling like a little bit of embarrassment or ashamed to reach out to these resources, a good thing about it is that this is difference between college and high school is that people are more focused on, especially with community college, people are more focused on getting their work done, and they're not concerned with, what you doing over there or what's he doing over there. More people are concerned with coming to class and getting their work done and not as concerned.
It's not the high school drama.
Yeah, it's not.
Thank you.
It's not that.
Thank you. That's exactly right. Thank you, Miles, for mentioning that. That is exactly right. Great point. That is exactly right.
So you heard it here, folks. So counseling, accessibility. Oh, that word, I'm struggling with that. College Navigators, and of course the DLASC. Every episode is going to end up being a DLASC ad, I guess.
Absolutely.
Might as well.
We even recruited Axel from College Navigator.
That's exactly right. No, I want to thank you, gentlemen, and I'm really serious about the work that you two in particular have done for the center. Again, I've been knowing you guys since I first got started here at BRCC, and I cannot tell you time and time again, anytime that I play somebody with you, Miles, or you, Derek, or vice versa, you, Derek, and you, Miles, students have left with an impression, and it's been a good impression because you guys have helped them. Derek, I call you the hybrid, and that's not a bad word because you're an academic tutor as well as a DLT. You help students with philosophy, psychology, physical science, writing, as well as digital learning on technical issues. And Miles, DLT, and you are our security, our enforcer. I feel very, very much safe and at ease while you're around. So I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you, Derek.
Can we do like a special episode of just Axel complimenting us?
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's right.
No, of course. Thank you for doing this with us. It's been a great conversation. Of course, we learn from the best.
Yes.
Being around such a bright personality, a loud, bright personality.
You can't be sad on Axel. I'm probably.
And you said loud. I resemble that remark.
I meant it as a compliment.
Thank you for giving our podcast a listen. We're excited to bring you more content. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Thanks again. This has been In Session with Miles and Derek.